These are the jokes, that's the things that they are still programming. This guy's more like actually
Bueno, yo voy a dar no como algo que se queda solamente en San Francisco y en Estados Unidos, tema del aborto con mucha fuerza aquí en Estados Unidos, pero se expande a todo el mundo. México también votamos en la noche para que pues este crimen no llegue contrario más bien la esperanza se extienda. Entonces quiero reconocer esta lucha que se hace aquí en San Francisco, porque si aquí en San Francisco, que es la falta de violencia, ¿no? Como le dicen, y hasta nos lo hacen saber, la importancia de mantenernos firmes en esta lucha recae no solamente como personas, sino como seres humanos. Entonces, pues nada, nos vemos en la marcha por la vida en California en Sacramento.
I don't think West Virginia's ready for what's about to happen next.
It's bloody cold day, so I'm wearing a jumper. Deal if you don't like it. I know normally with these videos I try to keep the same outfit, which honestly, kind of difficult, I'm not gonna lie. Remembering which jewelry was where and keeping the shirt, like taking it off the second I'm done and putting it away. For some reason, that's a very difficult task for me. But for the final segment, we're gonna talk about history, my decision, and then I'm going to respond to comments on social media after I asked, why are you pro-life or pro-choice? And I'm looking forward to that last segment a fair bit, actually. So without further ado, let's get right into the history of abortion. This is not an exhaustive. I'm actually considering doing a special where I do actually an exhaustive history of abortion, because this video would be like 12 hours long if I did that. I'm joking, sort of. But yeah, I'm considering doing a special. So, let me know what you think about that. Beyond that, let's get right into it. So, you can't talk about the history of abortion without talking about the formation of the American Medical Association, which takes place in 1874. And then, obviously, without talking about Margaret Sanger, you would be doing a disservice to the highest provider of abortion, Planned Parenthood. So, in 1870... Did I say 1874? I meant 1847. So, AMA is founded in 1847. In 1878, Margaret Sanger's born. In the 1880s is when states in the United States begin criminalizing abortion. And in 1883, the founding of eugenics occurs. This is going to be important, I promise. In 1896, Connecticut enacts the Feeble-Minded Law, which allows for sterilization and eugenical practices to be invoked upon people who are considered feeble-minded. And then in 1903, the American Breeders Association is founded, and it is an association dedicated to the specific breeding of desirable individuals. I will say American eugenics focused less on an Aryan race and more on social and moral purity, along with being physically sound. So they didn't care what you necessarily looked like as long as you were attractive, you were morally good, and you didn't have any malformalities such as a disability. Next, in 1909, we have the California State Mental Institutions begin sterilizing people. California, throughout this will be a reoccurring theme, but yeah, in 1909, California begins sterilizing individuals. In 1910, all states have banned abortions at all stages. So across the board, abortion is illegal at all stages in 1910. In 1916, the first Planned Parenthood is established. And if you're wondering why have we been talking about eugenics at all, I thought we were talking about abortion, this is where it becomes important. So we're about to add something new to the timeline as well. A substance called Zyklon B, which is, if you're not familiar with it at all, the gas that we use in Auschwitz. This is important slightly on a eugenics level, but also really much so on a tracking corporations and who's behind what. So Zyklon B development begins in 1920, and then in 1926, Zyklon B is patented. It should be noted that it was originally a pesticide before it was used for eradicating the Jews in gas chambers. In 1926, Margaret Sanger speaks to the KKK. I told you there was a reason Planned Parenthood was going to be important and why eugenics is important here. Sanger was a notorious eugenicist. She was notorious for it, specifically when it came to African American individuals. In 1927, Buck v. Bell is passed, which basically gives federal protection for sterilization and eugenics plans. Non-surprisingly, Sanger was a proponent of this. Did I say passed? I meant to say decided. Sanger was a proponent of this decision because this was a Supreme Court case. So, yeah. In 1930, Puerto Rico begins performing sterilizations because, entwined with the United States history is Puerto Rican history. In 1933, the Nazi Party passes the law for the prevention of hereditarily diseased offspring. Just because the Nazis wanted an Aryan race didn't mean there aren't parallels between American and Nazi eugenics. And then in 1936, contraceptive protection is established in the U.S. It should also be noted, not to rewind, apologies, but it should also be noted in 1933, California at that point had performed more sterilizations than any of the other 50 states combined, or other 49 states combined. So the combination of all total sterilizations from all other 49 states was still less than the amount of sterilizations that California had performed at this point. And it stays that way. In 1942, Buck v. Bell is overturned. And then in 1942, also, the Nazis reach peak usage of the gas chambers. In 1946, Tesch and Weinbarger are executed by the British military court in Hamburg. They're involved with Zyklon B. So that's why they get executed. Like I said, this is not an exhaustive list. If I do the special, there's way more connections here that make this make a little bit more sense. But these are some of the really big events that sort of stand out when you're researching the topic, and this is one of them that actually came up, surprisingly. In 1948, birth control development begins. This is important, I do promise. In 1952, a group called the Population Council is founded. So the Supreme Court might have overturned Buck v. Bell. However, eugenics in America has not calmed down at all. In 1953, there is the first U.S. abortion conference. In 1956, we begin human birth control trials. If you want to be disturbed, go look into how those took place. In 1960, the FDA approves the birth control pill in the United States. And I say go look at, if you want to go be disturbed by anything. Human birth control trials involved cutting open women to observe the reaction of the ovaries to the presence of the birth control pill in the woman's system. Of course, they're alive while they're doing this. And that's like the tip of the iceberg of the things that they did to test the birth control pill. I'll connect dots when I'm done reading off the timeline. Sorry, that was what the pause was. In 1962, we have the thalidomide scandal. In 1964, the the Association for the Study of Abortion is formed. And in 1966, the San Francisco 9 takes place. If you're not familiar with that is, it's 9 abortionists who are charged in San Francisco because they're doing abortion, and it's illegal at that time. In 1966, support for the partial abortion reform from an ASA poll of psychiatrists. I feel like this is very interesting that they polled psychiatrists who I would say, in my opinion, are probably the least qualified to give an opinion on that, but whatever. In 1968, the suction abortion is introduced. In 1969, NARAL was created, the National Association for the Repeal of Abortion Laws. In 1972, the American Association for Abortion, or the Association for the Study of Abortion, I don't know why I keep doing that. Basically, anyways, ASA establishes the slogan, right to choose. So that is like an actual established slogan by an established group. In 1973, the landmark case Roe v. Wade occurs. In 1976, the Hyde Amendment takes place. And then in 1979, the California state mental institutions stop sterilizing people. In 1980, RU486 is developed. This is mifepristone, the abortion pill, also known as Mifeprex. In 1984, a global gag order is enacted. And then in 1993, Clinton reverses this global gag order. And then Clinton expedites distribution of RU486 in 1993 as well. And by this, it's very iffy on what is actually meant by this. I think, based on my understanding, it's more approval based. It's not like he's like pushing it on anybody. He just basically says, okay, fine, y'all can do this. Through the FDA, through whatever. It is not like he's actually pushing this. He just signs things into law that allow this to move quicker. In 1994, the Population Council gets rights to RU486. I should say the Population Council, the reason they're interesting at all is because they are eugenicists. Told you. And so they now have rights to Mifeprex from the original group who had rights from Mifeprex. And that original group called Russo-UCLAF gave them rights when Mifeprex came over into the United States. Russo-UCLAF actually is tied directly to IG Farben through Holocaust AG, which is one of the companies that came out of the dissolution of IG Farben. IG Farben is the group that produced Zyklon B and is quoted saying that the relationship with the Reich is very fortuitous. That is what they are quoted saying. They worked very closely with Nazi Germany. And yeah, Russo-UCLAF is a direct resultant of that group. So there's that. Here we go. Sorry, 1995, the Buffett Foundation gives a loan to Danko for the suspected purchase of RU486 from the Population Council. Danko is this basically shadow corporation that only produces Mifeprex, has no public investors, is based outside of the U.S. but mainly distributes inside the U.S. and so does not basically experience the Freedom of Information Act. Doesn't work. We'll put it that way. And then in 1995, Danko takes possession of RU486, again, Mifeprex. And then the David and Lucille Placard Foundation give $14.2 million to Danko in 1996. So shortly after they get RU486. And then in 1997, the Rockefeller Foundation gives $2 million to Danko. If I do the special, you'll hear that name way too much, in my opinion. In 2000, Mifeprex is approved by the FDA. So as its brand name, not as the drug that it originally was. And then in 2009, Obama further reverses the global gag order. And then in 2021, we have the Dobbs decision. And that is a very abbreviated history of abortion in the United States, tied heavily to eugenics, both American and Nazi eugenics. Margaret Sanger, a notorious eugenicist, worked closely with different groups such as the Population Council, who are eugenics groups. Well, okay, I say closely with different groups. Did she work with the Population Council? I don't think she did. No, she did. In my research, no, she didn't work with the Population Council. She did, however, work with other groups, like the KKK. She was also behind the Negro Project, if you know what that is. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers a quick abridged history of abortion. So, with that information, where does that leave us on whether or not abortion should be a crime or a right? Great question. So, yes, I set the hat back up. So, with everything I've talked about, the groups, the laws, the biology, the special cases, the what is an abortion in the history, and again, that's not an exhaustive history. I just wanted to highlight the ties between the eugenics movement in the United States and Germany to the current establishment of abortion, particularly Planned Parenthood, as well as point out that the original founders of abortion, yeah, had some interesting backgrounds. And if we rewind to the laws, you'll remember when it comes to history that Roe, which was not her real name was Norma McQueevy, admitted that she had been paid to take the case of Roe v. Wade. And if I do the special, I will have way more information on that, actually. Anyways, where does all of this leave my decision on abortion? Which, I mean, this is a fun thing that you're watching on YouTube. At the end of the day, I don't consider this like an essay, a video essay with a conclusion. Let's put it that way. Because like I might draw one conclusion from all this, and y'all might draw another, and that's okay. However, starting from the top, pro-choice groups, really no effect, no impact. Socialists are annoying, but whatever. And Planned Parenthood throughout this managed to piss me off at the end, but cool. Then we go to current laws. Abortion is the only area where you can harm a fetus in the law. And I mean, sure, not every state has provisions for drug abuse and yada yada, but pretty much abortion is the only area in the law where you can harm a fetus. And that's just interesting to me. That is the only spot in the law where that's the case. Everything else is criminally chargeable, including certain things that the mother does. So, what is it about abortion that makes it so special? I really don't think there is legally anything. Then we move to biology. The fetus is definitely its own thing of DNA. It's not a parasite. Mother's body's programmed to raise it, and it exists specifically for a specific reason, like it comes from a specific act. Again, there's nothing I see in biology that endorses abortion. It is a living human being, and it is an individual human being, and it's a human life. So there's nothing in the biology of pregnancy that I can see that endorses abortion, and there is no standing in the argument that a miscarriage is the same as an abortion. Whether that's from an ectopic pregnancy, whether that's from chemical pregnancy, sorry, it took my brain a second, or any of the other forms of miscarriage that we covered, any of those, they're not the same as an abortion. A blighted ovulum, not the same as an abortion. It's not, because an abortion is the intentional termination of a pregnancy. Those are miscarriages, and most of those aren't even viable. It's not the same. So, special cases, I think I kind of addressed this. I think it's either all or nothing. I think the statistics and literature prove that it's not really a thing that occurs, and that, I mean, it does occur. It occurs greater than USA Today would have you think, but it doesn't occur at like a 2.5 to 5% is the rate that we sort of set as a frame, right? It doesn't occur at like 10%. It doesn't occur at like 20%, 12%, 50%, any of this nonsense. It's still a very low number. But I do think it should either just be all or nothing, and I would say that the literature surrounding the issue does say that keeping the child is better for the mother than aborting it. And that there is no proof that allowing for abortion for those cases has any impact on society in any positive or negative manner, either way. Um, so it feels like a very mute point. And I think if you're going to ban abortion, just ban it in all cases. And if you're going to allow it, like, just do it one way or the other. Just do it. Don't make special provisions because it's pointless. And honestly, looking back at the other two areas, so if you step outside just the realm of special cases and you look at the biology and the current laws, again, it's still an individual human with individual human rights. It's not a parasite. It's not the mother's body. It is a separate body. It's separate DNA. It's a separate organism. And then again, if you look at the laws, nowhere else would that be something that we would do. So it just doesn't make sense. And then we get what is an abortion. I can understand why the women in the one study talked about how they felt like abortion was a barbaric practice. It really is. And you have Planned Parenthood blatantly, the number one provider of abortions, blatantly lying about it. So where's that? You're killing, like, it literally is the killing of a fetus. It is a brutalistic practice. It is the only, we wouldn't do that for any, there wouldn't, the very measures they have to take for certain abortions just kind of proves that it's BS. Based on the biology, they're feeling pain off the first one. You suck them up in that tube, they can feel that shit. Yeah, like, the second trimester abortion, you have to break their brain. That you have to break their skull and their brain drains out the cervix, and that's how you know it's ready to be removed. That's disgusting. That is foul. It's just not okay. And so, with all of this, my final stance on the matter is this. And some of y'all ain't gonna like this. And you can be mad. But I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna stand 10 toes down on this one, and everything that I've covered proves this. And then the final nail in the coffin. What do you mean it's founded in eugenics? And Nazis? Nazi eugenics and American eugenics, which are cousins. Like, anyways, my stance is the San Francisco Nine should have all been charged with murder. Basically, because an abortionist, the person who performs an abortion, is a murderer. Full stop. No breaks. We ain't pass and go. You're going straight to jail. There is no $200. You murdered an individual human life. You put an end forcibly to what would have been an individual human life intentionally. That is by definition first-degree murder. Next, I would call mother, father, everybody who signed off on this, just like any other first-degree murder, if you're signing off, if you're involved and you're not the one committing the act, you know what that's called? Accessory. Both before, during, and after the fact. Because there's 3 different levels. You can be an accessory before, you can be an accessory during, and you can be an after, or you can be a combination thereof. If you are the mother, the father, the family, if you are signing off on this bullshit, on allowing an abortionist to murder the fetus, you are an accessory to murder before, after, and during. I think abortion should be illegal at the federal level. I think the Constitution actually has 0 provisions for it. If anything, it has provisions against it. So, do I feel like this is gonna stir a lot of pots? Fuck yeah. Do I feel like everything I laid out basically backs up everything I just said? Also, yes. I understand the impulse from the pro-choice movement. Just like I understand it with a lot of other groups and what they want to get into and what they want to support. I don't normally say this, but I just think it comes from a lack of education and in many cases, a position of anti-intellectualism. They are intentionally choosing not to interact with the information in an appropriate manner. And I think Planned Parenthood's blatantly lying. Now, do I think everything Live Action Strong and Students for Life is saying is 100% true? Yeah, there might be a little bit of oratory, a little bit of hyperbole going on there, and some things might be a little iffy, but they at least come with they come with receipts. Planned Parenthood's just up in here blatantly lying, provably lying. So yeah, that's my final take. I think it is a crime. It is definitely not a right. One of the inalienable rights arguments was made once that you should have the right to like food and shelter. And the counter argument to that was very simple and very basic. And that is the fact that no one has the right to another person's labor or livelihood. We are all given the freedom for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You deny all three of those things when you have an abortion. So we're going to go and we're going to look at comments and such from TikTok. And I think I have like 1 or 2 on Instagram. There's less on Instagram. But we're going to go look at that and I'm going to respond to them. And that'll be part of this. And then that'll be into this series. And hopefully it can be a little lighthearted thing. And I'm definitely going to be ribbing into both sides. And do I think that anybody will say anything that might change my mind? No, but it could happen. It could very well happen. It won't. I have a complete and utter scientific and legal framework that backs me up. But pop off. And I will see you all over there. Don't freak out. I know I'm vertical. I'm vertical because I asked people on TikTok and Instagram why they were pro-life and pro-choice and gave them a chance to respond. But I responded to these responses on TikTok and Instagram, meaning the responses were filmed vertically. Why did I do this? So that the people could see what I had to say about them, because my expectation for them seeing the video, but I thought it was only fair to let them see what I had to say about what they had to say. So, for this next little segment, it is going to be like this, and I just wanted to explain why. So, enjoy. Right off the bat, I don't know how many times I've said this since I started replying to these. Focus more on law and biology, not religion. Good argument. I don't know. I'm at this point, you can probably guess that I fell onto the pro-life side of the argument after I was done doing research. If you want to see the research, go check out my YouTube. Okay, no. All right. Sorry for the shameless plug. Absolutely shameless. Anyways, I would say great argument. Part of me wants to be like, oh, that's extreme, but we are talking about the killing of another human for the convenience of another, for the most part. So, yeah. Yeah. It might feel extreme, and personally, I just find when people use extremist language that all it does is alienate people, but it's accurate, and it's spot on. It is accurate. So, there is that. But focus more on the law and biology. I talk about it a lot in the YouTube video. That is my biggest takeaway for, honestly, the pro-life side is religion. We are a country of religious freedoms, and people are allowed to decide based on religion how they want to do stuff. But when it comes to law and biology, not so much. And I think you'll find there's a really good argument there for the pro-life argument in those two things. I just did not get a say in the matter. It didn't, yeah, didn't ask to be there. I feel like that's something every teenager at one point or another yelled at their parents. I did not ask to be born. Yeah, no, the fetus did not get a say in the matter. And I mean, it's the consequences of the parents' actions. You chose to have sex. Yes, you maybe used a condom. Yeah, you blah, 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 blah. You used contraceptive. Cool. Contraceptive is known to fail. You still chose to have sex. There's a consequence to having sex. That is STDs or pregnancy if you're straight. That is that. What? And of course, we're talking about, this is consensual. Non-consensually, baby still didn't make a choice. The dad did, or, I swear, if a woman raped a man and then went and got, yeah, we're not even going to go there. The nut jobs in the incel community would have a field day with that argument. So I'm not going there. What the fuck? But no, it's still a human life. It's not its fault. And it doesn't, what? And this Psychological effects of abortion. It's a study that was done at one point. You should go check it out. It's actually really cool. It talks a lot. Apparently, most rapists who are male, there are female rapists, and they didn't talk about that. Or the fact isn't about them. But most male rapists actually struggle from some form of sexual dysfunction, particularly in the realm of ejaculation. Fun fact. Anyways, they say that women recover from rape better when they keep the pregnancy. Just something to think about. Food for thought. But yeah, no, it's not the baby's fault. We're not punishing the baby for the sins of the father. I think that's insane. And you know, no. And most women don't even choose to take that route. Actually, a majority of women who get raped and are pregnant find it more barbaric and consider the violent act of aborting to be perpetuating a cycle of violence instead of healing their bodies. What in the failed U.S. education system is this? I mean, that possibly could be like any country's failed education system. There's so many that are in dire straits, but like, we're going to assume you're American because what the fuck? Only an American could say something so absolutely. And I'm like, it's not even the premise. It's like the language and like the what? The premise actually isn't half bad. It's a pretty common premise, but the language is all I'm gonna say is hijacked. Babes, you made a choice. You stuck a thing in a place and it did a thing and it did another thing and then the sperm met the egg and like, you made a choice. And we're not going to talk about the fact that contraceptive fails and that's a risk you take on. And nor are we going to talk about rape. I've talked about that like 4 times already. Not happening. What? Forced? Ripped? What? 1, have you not heard of a cesarean? If you're so worried about that down there, just get a cesarean. And 2, yeah, that's kind of how that. Why? I'm so confused. And I don't mean I'm confused not because I understand. I'm confused because what the. You know, you made a choice. Choices have consequences, even if you take precautionary measures. I don't know what's happening. Oh my god. I'm sure you're fun. So much fun. The rest of the Bible would like to have a word with you. And I'm not even gonna dissect, like, this is not about to become a theological argument. But beyond that, the rest of the Bible would like to have a word with you. How you gonna be? I'm not making this a religious. I'm not doing it. Your choice is having sex. We're not even gonna. God ain't coming to you and asking to give you his son. No. People who get an abortion, unless we're talking about rape, which I've already answered that a few times. If you really want to argue that horse, you better go look at the other videos. Your choice is to have sex. You chose to have sex. Therefore, you deal with the consequences, whether it's an STD or a pregnancy. This one's very long term. This one can actually be pretty very long term. Actually, but anyways, this is long term. Wrap in latex or you get your paychecks. You ever heard that one? No? Okay. Just like, what? Oh my god. Go read the rest of the Bible. Like the rest of it. Go read it a few more times. Go read the part specifically about Moloch and see how God feels about babies dying. This isn't even a Catholic thing. This is a you thing. You are touched in the head. I am not playing the oratory game with you or anybody else at this point. I'm over it. I'm done. We could call it a troglodyte for all I care. It's still a person. Okay? It's a mother and a baby. That's what I'm going to call it. You can, yeah. A fetus is a word. It doesn't, like, remove its value. Come on. As for the first point, 2 wrongs don't make a right. I encourage you, actually, no, I'm just going to tell you. So there's this it's actually a really cool study. It's called, The Psychological Aspects of Abortion. It actually, the one part of the study I'm talking about talks about how, apparently most male offenders have performance issues, particularly surrounding ejaculation, so that's really cool. But it also talks about how abortion is not the choice. For mothers who get pregnant from rape, it is best for them not to abort the baby because they recover better. I hope that made sense. As for your second point, thanks for numbering them. It made my life easier. As for your second point, that's not how the law or life works. I hope that helps. And for your third point, no, there isn't. For your fourth, that's called a non-viable pregnancy. That's not an abortion. That's categorically different, and there's no laws preventing that being handled properly and medically. Fifth, I'm assuming you mean teens, and teens shouldn't be having, like, oh my god, is sex ed not a thing in school anymore? That's a conclusion I've drawn from these comments, is that sex ed just isn't a thing anymore, which is unfortunate. And then six, that's a risk you take on. Just like 5, it's the consequences of your actions. Oh no, you had sex, now you're pregnant. Why do I feel like a lot of these are boiling down to that? Like, what? No, you don't get the right to be like, nah, throw the baby away. Like, what? What? No. You made your choice. Sorry. Except it's not her body. Like, all that would be legitimate if it was her body, but it's not. It is a completely separate organism. I fear that should have been common knowledge from your biology class, but apparently not. So let me break it down for you real slow. I'm teasing. I'm actually going to talk really fast. So basically, at the moment of conception, you get 23 sets of chromosomes from, or 23 sets of chromosomes, 46 in total, with 23 from your mother, 23 from your father. Unless we're talking sex, they're of equal size. Go watch my YouTube video if you want to know why sex chromosomes are different. But basically, you are 50% of each of your parents, within margins. My point being, you're a genetic anomaly because you are one of a kind, love. Ding, ding, ding. Congratulations, you and every other fetus out there are perfectly original. You are not part of your mother's body. You are a completely separate organism from the moment of conception, and your DNA proves that. Like, middle school biology. That's all I gotta say. It's not her body. It isn't. It's a completely separate organism that is in fact growing inside of her, and barring certain cases that are very rare, because of the resultant of her own choices. Cool. I hope that helps. So, non-viable pregnancies are not the same as having an abortion. Hope that helps. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. But no, seriously, the termination of a non-viable pregnancy, also known as a miscarriage, and yeah, not in some cases, what the fuck? It's a miscarriage. That's not an abortion. It's not. The pregnancy is not viable. It would not have made it to term. It was a risk to the mother's health, correct? Yeah, that's not an abortion. That's a miscarriage. That's a non-viable pregnancy, termination thereof. Like, there is a medical distinction and a legal distinction, and even like a slight biological distinction, because generally those non-viable pregnancies are due to damaged uterine, chromosomal issues, hormonal imbalances. Like, there's a whole misshapen certain like bone structure and muscular tissue and all that ain't shaped right. Like, malformed sperm can cause the chromosomal issues, because it probably sounds like I'm wailing on women. I promise I'm not. It's just that's a non-viable pregnancy. That's not an abortion. Like, and it's rare. Do you know how rare that is? Oh my god. Even then, it's still not an abortion. That's not what that is. Who dictionary? It's free. Hey guys, so guess what? All crimes, all laws, all everything, just throw it away. That's what this guy wants, apparently. Like, what? People, no shit. No shit. Welcome to life, where people do things that are illegal. That doesn't mean we get rid of the law prohibiting them. People do things that are illegal because they're not supposed to be done, and then they do them in a different way, and they get hurt because of it. That does not mean we should get rid of the... Oh my god. This isn't an argument. This isn't an argument. What? Huh? What are we doing here? I fear we might have lost the plot. I fear we may have lost the plot. What are we talking? Oh, okay. So, let me
break it down for you real slow, Kimosabi. This is not an argument because, one, it's illogical. It's illogical. It's a false comparison. It's just a slippery slope, maybe. I don't even know. I don't even know which goddamn logical fallacy this is because it's so just... Yeah, let's just... Sure, let's follow your logic. I think the first two laws that should go after abortion bans are drug bans and the law against murder. Because based on this logic and the logic of abortion, just in general, those would be the two most related things. What are we even doing? What the fuck? Oh my god. Who? Where'd you go to school? So I could not send my kids there. No. So the fetus begins to have brain impulses and like an actual like feelings and shit at like 14 weeks. 22 to 24 weeks puts us at a D&E surgical abortion, which is the like that's the one where they have to use a serrated, what essentially is clamps to dismember, to take apart the fetus to remove it. The only issue is it can feel that. It can feel it. I mean, beyond the fact that it's a human life, it can feel the abortion at that point. So there's that. There is that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a separate human being. It's still a human. It still earns dignity. Nah, I'm gonna have to say nah. Because you're talking about, chemical abortions? There's so much shit that gets talked about that's really not important. Chemical abortions in a D&C, and I mean, it still falls in D&E, isn't anything after 14 weeks the fetus can feel. So, that's, no-go from me. I do appreciate the formulation of, a cohesive sentence and argument, and, I get the concept of wanting to have, a sort of potential line in the sand, make a whatever. I can't get behind it. It can feel it. See, I just can't get behind it after that point. But at least you have a cohesive argument, because that's been a struggle. Well, my heart fully goes out to you, and I can appreciate the circumstances of your childhood. One, not your decision. I'm not sure quite what you meant grammatically by that, but that's really irrelevant. I just thought it was odd. That's a miscarriage, not an abortion. Those aren't the same things, and you're perfect, a miscarriage is not illegal underneath the abortion laws. Overturning of Roe didn't change that. Those aren't the same thing. There is no... I'm not sure... What? Those aren't the same thing. And, yeah, that's the procedure she got done to remove the fetal tissue of a dead fetus that died of natural causes due to a miscarriage, not an abortion. Now, if she went and got an abortion, that would be an abortion. But that's a miscarriage. Do you see the fact that they're different things? I'm confused. That's a miscarriage, not an abortion, buddy. I mean, my heart goes out to you. That's awful. But nah. Why do men have the right to control women's bodies? What? Huh? When? How? Who? Is this the patriarchy? This is the patriarchy. You think we live in a patriarchy? Oh my god. I'm not going there. That's Delulu land and I don't go there. Okay? What the fuck? So, for most people, actually, it's about law and biology, the legal framework that's in place by literally everything else, and the biological framework of it's not her body. For most, it's not religious, actually. And for those who, maybe started religiously, you'll find a lot of them found other reasons and logics as to why. Cool. Just right off the bat. And I mean, law and biology, if you really go look into the way the laws are structured, abortion's, the only area in laws applicable to babies before they're born that allow for the baby to be killed. And then biologically, the DNA alone is proof that it's not her body, but there's so much more than that. So yeah, it's a separate human. I don't know. I don't know why we, my question was, why are you pro-life? And you went on a rant that was anti-Christian. What are we doing, chat? Yeah, that's about all I got for you, dude. And I'm not... this really has nothing. This isn't. No men. I mean, I'm sure there are men who would like to control women's bodies, but that's not what this is about at all. Actually, you really want to talk? The forerunners for the pro-life movement are women. Go look them up. Kristen Hawkins and Lila Rose, forerunners for the pro-life movement, and there's one other woman, I can't remember her name. But they're women. They're women. They're women. They're women. They're. I will say you are the first person to make me look into something new, which is why you get to go up on the chopping block first. Sorry, buddy. Right off the top, medical provisions. It's called a non-viable pregnancy in most cases if the pregnancy directly affects the life of a mother, and that's actually not limited by abortion bans. Also, if it is like a dystocia in the actual birthing process, that's what a C-section's for, my guy. Further, Adriana. Okay, so this is what I had to look into because I already knew parts of it, but I needed to confirm certain things, and it wasn't part of like the overall documentary that I did on YouTube, and so I had to look into some new shit. So thank you for that, actually. I appreciate it. Right off the bat, she was brain dead. She's not alive. That's like right off the bat. The second she went brain dead, she's considered dead legally. That's like a legal fact. Next up, this actually, her case applies to advanced directive laws, not abortion laws, and the abortion law that was cited as supposedly involved in this whole thing was the heartbeat law, which it isn't a part of. But I heard that, but I hadn't confirmed it because I didn't care, if I'm being completely honest, until I started this project, and then it slipped my mind when all this went down, whatever. I will say Chance, Baby Chance, which is what her family named him, not her family named him Baby Chance, is still human with a right to life, and he was still alive even after she went brain dead. So in that, it creates this sort of medical paradox of who do you actually save ethically, or not even who do you actually save. She's dead, he's alive. Do you still try to save him? And the decision was yeah. Her family actually came out and said that they couldn't wait to meet Chance, and that their original quote that had them like talking about choice and stuff was actually taken out of context. So they were never against it. There's a lot of claims I saw in the research I did that they were against it. They weren't. The hospital lied that it was an abortion law affecting them. They just straight up lied, or they were just unaware of the fact that it wasn't an abortion law affecting them. I don't know. It's literally one or the other. Either they were stupid or they lied because it was the advanced directive laws, and so. And it's also not, meaning it's not the same issue. It's not an abortion issue anymore. It's an advanced directive issue. And if you don't know what that means, that just means like what happens to you after life, and then who do the doctors prioritize in saving the baby still alive. It's a modern medical marvel, actually. He's the first of his kind to actually be born, and by that I mean he's the first baby to be born in that manner. And it's honestly a modern medical marvel that he survived. So it's really impressive that we were able to sustain a baby long enough like that. If anything, I think that's a net good case, and the language used is very dehumanizing, but she was dead. I don't think it really matters. I get that might be a little bit of an abrasive thing to say, but like, she died. He was gonna live, so they made sure he lived. I'm not seeing an issue there, and yeah, some mothers might not, like, whatever. That might be the case that some mothers wouldn't want that, but I honestly, personally, in my life, and I know anecdotal evidence isn't necessarily evidence, but I struggle to think of any mother who would want her baby to die just because she died. And that's basically what the instance came down to. She wasn't used as an incubator. She wasn't, like, that's very dehumanizing language, and I get you're saying that they dehumanized her by doing that. Your language is dehumanizing her in that, I feel like. It isn't a good argument for abortion being legal, because it wasn't an abortion issue, it was an advanced directive issue, and I see it as a net good and a modern medical marvel, but I could be wrong. I'm not, but you probably disagree. Right off the bat, it's literally a politician's job to make decisions about things that they don't necessarily know all the facts about. That's their, oh my god. Do you think politicians are an expert in literally every single bill they make? No. That's literally their job. That's their job. That's the argument you came with? That is their job, love. That's their job. What the fuck? That's not an argument. That is the failure of the American education system, if you're American. If not, that's the failure of whatever education system from whatever country you came from. It is their job to make decisions of which they do not have all the information of. That's what they do. I sound like I'm very mad. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at whoever failed you in educating you. Oh my God. That is insane. Yes, they're not doctors. And it's not one, it's not a medical decision at this point. At this point, it's not a medical. It's not been a medical decision for a really long time. And honestly, there's so many medical decisions that are refrained and controlled by law that it is staggering. I mean, you can just go look at advancce directives. Well, you can just start there. Power of attorney. Like, girl, no. What? So this isn't an argument. This is actually anti-intellectualism in like full display. Zero hesitations. I could vote for somebody who either bans or nationally legalizes abortion. Do you understand that? Does that not go past you? Do you understand how many issues there are that affect a variety of people that everyone has to make decisions on, even if it doesn't directly impact them? And the issue of abortion does impact men because they are fathers, and it is their children. I have so much more I want to say, but I think I'll leave you with this quote from Paris Geller.
Is it raining? No, it's National Baptism Day. Tired too.
Hey buddy, if your friends jumped off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff too? Obviously, I'm being a little bit facetious. Clearly I'm being a little bit facetious, but, this isn't an argument. The number of times I'm going to say this isn't an argument. Everybody else is doing it, so we should do it too. What if everybody else is wrong? But they're doing it. They could be wrong. But you get what I'm getting at, right? This isn't an argument. Further, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You're denying the fetus all three of those things. And barring rape, which is a horrible thing, and I am probably going to talk about that in later replies, not this one, because I'm not spending that much time. Barring rape, pregnancy is the result of an act of choice that the person makes. Meaning, it is the consequences of their actions. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Abortion kills a fetus. Fetus dead. Fetus get no life, get no liberty, get no pursuit of happiness. Mother made choice to have sex that could result in a baby. Therefore, she has to be accountable and responsible for her own actions. And again, I'll talk about rape cases probably in other ones because there's people who actually directly address that. No. Again, everybody else is doing it, so we should do it. What if they're wrong? But they're doing it. What if they're wrong? What if they're wrong? So this is probably one of the most put together responses I got from both sides. I'm just gonna put that out there. But right off the bat, dude, I hate to say it, religion's not an argument. I'm a Christian. I get where you're coming from. It's not an argument. You're going to have to switch gears, go look into the biology, go look into the legal, go look into something else. But when you are confronted with that question, religion is not an argument. Okay? Because we're a country of religious freedoms. Their religion might disagree with that. You need a little bit more to back that shit up. Suicide as an example is good, but I would say murder is more fitting because that's what they're doing. So, yeah, thanks for a cohesive comment. And I did, your reply to yourself gave me a little chuckle. Because you should see the essays I get in my fucking comments. But I appreciate this. This is fun. But like I said, religion's not an argument, my guy. And while I think the suicide example is good, murder's more fitting because it is the killing of a human life. So, yeah. Oratory just runs rampant in these conversations. I really hadn't fully made up my mind, so I was struggling to pick language that wouldn't alienate one side or another, and at the end of the day, I don't think there was a single word I could have used that wouldn't have alienated one side or another, because while you're correct, the word fetus is a little like, Fetus is a stage of development of a human baby while it's in utero, so I've actually gotten... Both sides don't like it when I use the word fetus, because they're like, fetus is too humanizing, and the other side's fetus is dehumanizing. Which, I mean, the one, anyways, that should be a red flag. Life has value, irregardless, and so a fetus is life, therefore it has value, and it is just a stage of human development. It's a word. It's a word that just indicates a specific stage of human development. There's nothing special about it. It doesn't automatically strip or devoid that person of life. And I really think just ignoring the oratory element, if they want to call it a fetus, cool, we're going to engage as a fetus. They want to call it an embryo, cool, we'll engage as an embryo, because they're all just stages of human development. It doesn't change the fact that the moment of conception, the moment sperm meets egg, a whole new human is formed. That does not change, no matter what word you use. So, chill on don't worry about the oratory, just interact with the actual argument. There's a lot of discourse out there over a lot of different things, and abortion is one that's pretty heavy in the fact that it's hard to follow what's going on. So it's perfectly understandable for somebody, and I don't give a shit that you're mad at me, I'm just saying for future reference for other people, it's understandable that they might not have a full opinion, because it can be hard, especially with the amount of misinformation out there on this issue. I know researching this issue, which this was part of it, this was the sort of artsy part, the engagement part, I wanted to have people engage and talk, open forum. But in researching this issue for the YouTube video I did, where I basically walk through all parts of this issue and talk about, well, pretty much in real time formulate an opinion with you guys. Yeah, it's hard because there's so much misinformation, like collaborating sources, going through shit. Planned Parenthood's downright evil in it. Like, they will just lie on their website. And I know people who are watching this who are pro-abortion are like, no, you don't. Sure, buddy. Sure. I would say one thing. If you actually, if you don't, go for it. Just be a rage baiter online. Go for it, buddy. Who am I to tell you different? Oh, this is pretty funny. I got a good chuckle out of this. This is not going to help nobody change nobody's mind. Funny, not helpful. But I mean, if that's what you want to do, if you just want to be funny, go for it. Go for it. I encourage it. But if you actually want to be helpful, change your tactic a little bit and have a little bit more tact. This is a complete side note, but that is one of my favorite Bible verses because it just, wow. However, and I always feel bad saying this to people who really believe and care, religion's not an argument. You do need to back it up with law and biology. I will say, if you really want a quick place to go find all that, my YouTube has a whole series on that now, because that's what this whole project was a part of. So I encourage you to go check that out if that's where you want. I mean, if you really want to defend abortion and work in that area, you need to back it up with a little bit more than that. And there's tons of information on my YouTube video that will, because it was me walking through determining whether or not abortion should be legal on the basis of law, biology, and a few other things. And the answer is no. Spoilers, the answer is no. So go check that out if you want to hear those arguments and watch how I formulated those arguments. But yeah, no, this is well-intentioned, it's very sweet, but religion's not an argument, love. Beyond that, rock on. Right off the bat, it's not the mother's body. It is a completely separate organism that is distinctly human, and that will distinctly be human, remain human from the moment conception onward. Like, how people came up with the fact that it's the mother's body is... Actually, I do know the history behind that. Go check out my YouTube, and I'll go check out my YouTube, keep an eye on it, and you'll turn on notifications, subscribe, you'll get a post notification when I drop the special that I'm going to drop on the full history of abortion, in which I talk about that, actually, how that slogan became a thing. Anyways, first and foremost, just right off the bat, it's not their body. And then, you're the person who first kind of actually brought up this point. This is fascinating. To me, it's fascinating. It's from a study called The Psychology of Abortion, and it cites that a mother who is raped and gets pregnant from that rape recovers better if she keeps the child. Don't shoot the messenger. Don't do it. I know you're going to want to, but don't. I mean, it's the citing. She recovers better if she keeps the child. And it makes sense because biologically the child's fetal cells repair and return energy to the mother. And when I say return energy, I don't mean in a hippie voodoo woohoo way. I mean it in like an actual scientific mitochondria resource allocation kind of way. So while a mother's pregnant, the fetus is actually rejuvenating her body, which is beyond cool. It's actually why mothers have the DNA of all the children that they've had, whether they're miscarried, aborted, or come to full term, inside of them. So if you've ever been pregnant, the DNA of that child is still inside of you, which is fucking dope. And last but not least, I don't normally do this, but I haven't done this really in these, but you're not a nice person, are you? Like, you're really nasty in the comments. It's kind of, and I also feel like maybe accountability for your own actions. I mean this with as much respect as one can garner a stranger on the internet. But, like, you do know, barring rape, you make the choice to have sex. Even with birth control, condoms, Plan B, you still make that choice to have sex, and those things can fail, and you know that they can fail, and so you choose to have sex, and at some point, you're gonna have to deal with the consequences of that action. I don't know, just based off your comments on any of my videos, because you've been in a few of them. Not to be, with all due respect, it's something that struck me. You and a handful of others that have been in the comments of my videos when it comes to this abortion stuff, y'all ain't that nice. You're really not. With love. You fought a whole-on orc in the comments. Damn, she was under a bunch of people's videos. Not the nicest person. Lord have mercy. That was mean. That was so mean. Just right off, the social reform approach, nothing but applause. I really do think we do not have enough of a conversation about why hookup culture is so pervasive, why the lack of accountability, the lack of just even the lack of education on sex. Like, a lot of people seem to think, like, if contraceptive fails, they're entitled to it, or that they're entitled to have casual sex. What? What a first world mentality. But social reform for so many of these issues, like even the rape issue, the rape and incest exception, which I don't agree with, but again, why is rape such a prevalent issue in our culture? Shouldn't we be focused on social reform and working on that, not killing babies? And again, like, why hookup culture is so pervasive and why there's such a lack of accountability, especially in the younger generations, and this desire to have that as an option instead of just understanding that sex comes with consequences. And then, like I said, I don't agree with the rape and incest exceptions because you're still killing an innocent life. A negative and a negative don't make a well, actually, two wrongs don't make a right. A negative and negative do make a positive, but two wrongs don't make a right. In, like, math, cool. Real life, not so much. So it's still a special life. The mother, look at one of my other replies. I talk about this way more in depth. But yeah, beyond that, one, impressive to standing your ground to that. Two, I fully agree with the social reform. I really wish we had more of a conversation around that when it comes to the issue of abortion, because right now it really does seem like just a bunch of people screaming at each other for no good reason, and a good chunk of one side and a little bit of another side just ignoring all the facts. So, A+ on an original comment. I really wouldn't call this a conversation of bodily autonomy, because a fetus and a mother are separate genetically. Like, I'm not going to sit here and argue that. Like, from the moment of conception, it is a whole new genome that will specifically grow into a person. So just right off the bat, no, this is not no. And, barring rape, she made the choice to have sex and took on the inherent risk that comes with having sex, even with birth control, even with Plan B. She took on the risk of having a child. And I have said this to somebody else, and I'm going to say this to you, where I'm not talking about rape to you, because that does not include in your comment, and I will circle back around to that with another comment, because there's one that directly addresses it, and I just want one done. But yeah, no, they're separate. They are a different DNA. This is not bodily autonomy. That's not what that is. The bodily autonomy is the choice to do with your own body. What's in her womb is not her body. That is a whole separate ass human. That is normally, like, statistically, barring, like, it's hard to gauge, but we'll just say for the argument of this conversation, at max 2.5% of the time is rape. Yeah, no, she made the choice, she got pregnant, she gets to deal with the consequences. That's not her body. This is not bodily autonomy. If anything, in the sense of bodily autonomy, that argument can be used to defend the fetus, not the mother. Thank you for the decently laid out argument, just right off the bat. it's very nice to see. Just all in all, I very much so agree with what you said. I did find it funny. I completely forgot abolitionism or abolitionism was a thing when I started asking people about that. But I have to say, after finishing the whole YouTube series, I fully agree with abolitionism. I see no moral, no legal, no biological, no nothing justification for abortion at any point. And I think your point of going to watch the videos of that is so... Anyone who's pro-choice needs to go watch those videos, those actual videos. Don't... You go to the Planned Parenthood website and watch videos about abortion from there. I'm a tweak. Because, oh my gosh, the lack of disclosure of information, the lies of omission, the just blatant lies of lying. It's like they just open their mouth and say shit that just isn't true. Like they literally just, oh my, it was horrible. Just in a, like, what are you doing? But no, anybody who's watching that or thinking about abortion or anything like that, and like as a topic or getting one, go watch what happens and how it's done, and also look at fetal stages of development, because I think you'll find that they develop neurons way sooner than you expect, and they are genetically a whole separate subset of human life, different than your own. So we do have a set definition for what abortion is. It's the termination of a viable pregnancy. That's what an abortion is. There is a... What? What are you talking about? What do you think an abortion is? Huh? And you should follow your own moral compass. If that's what we did in society, oh my god. No. No. People would be stealing all the time. And murdering all the time. What? Follow... No. Just... Oh my god. We do know what an abortion is. And just... That's not an argument for something that's legal. You should just follow your own moral compass. The law doesn't typically let one do that. When it comes to certain issues, anyways. Like, of course, there's plenty of issues where you can follow your own moral compass, but when it comes to things like this, no. No, there isn't really... That's not really a thing the law does. And again, we know what an abortion is. How do you think we don't? Do you think it's just this thing that, like, appeared to man in a... image or something in the sky? Like, what? Oh, huh? We know what an abortion is, my guy. Can someone please explain to me why we think it's okay to mischaracterize a miscarriage as an abortion or a non-viable pregnancy as an abortion? An abortion is the termination of a viable pregnancy, the intentional termination of a viable pregnancy. That is how it has been characterized for years. That is how it's still characterized. That is how it's defined. A non-viable pregnancy means a fetus that would never come to term and isn't alive. A miscarriage means the unintentional, unwanted, like, a miscarriage is just the death of a fetus with no external, nobody did nothing to it, it died. Of natural causes. There is such a that is disgusting and such a slap in the face to every mother who's ever miscarried. What the fuck is wrong with you people? They are not the same thing. And that is just so gross to me. Why would you do that? Why would you characterize those things as the same thing? The only reason I can think of is because it's the only way you feel like you can win the abortion argument, by trying to make it seem like if you make abortion illegal, you would then make miscarrying illegal, or some insane psychobabble like that, when nowhere in the history of American politics and law has anyone ever tried to make miscarriage illegal. What is wrong with you? I don't normally respond to comments like this, but this is actually ticking me off, because it's just so disgusting and such an insult to every woman who has miscarried. It's disgusting.
Thank you for watching along. Yes, I shifted and I took off the jumper because this is being recorded the night after I did all that. But thank you guys for following along. Yeah, I really appreciate it. If you are watching this in the final, like the actual final project, I have no idea how long this is going to be after I'm done putting it all together. But thank you for sitting through that. But if you followed along through the series, thank you for that too. Much appreciated. And yeah, I know this series might have seemed a little bit trivial, but I enjoyed it. It was a fun opportunity to research something and really look into how all that's going. So thank you a lot for watching along. And if you agree, cool. If you disagree, cool. I mean, you can share your opinions below. But like I already said, I feel like my stance is pretty factually based and pretty secure. But not everybody agrees with that. There's been a couple of things that I've found out throughout working with this. Like, apparently, there's the term spontaneous abortion, which is just a miscarriage, but it's an argument that's used to justify getting abortions. I don't understand. They're conflated as the same thing, which to me is insulting to every woman who's ever had a miscarriage, but c'est la vie. And the argument of I'm a guy and therefore shouldn't have an opinion about this and shouldn't be talking about this, that's actually insane. I mean, so is the conflating an abortion with a miscarriage by calling it a spontaneous abortion. That's just semantics on overdrive. But so is saying that I'm a guy, so I can't have an opinion about this. So, yeah, all in all, thank you for watching. Yeah, I don't think I really missed much of anything. This is going to be long, so I really hope I did. But if you feel like I did, comment below. I'm trying to think to replies and stuff, if like on comments on the stuff on TikTok, if there's anything I need to like share with you guys. But I don't think there is. I don't think there's anything. And if there is, I'm forgetting it. But it's probably in the TikTok videos. Oh, states like Texas, who do have some laws that can actually potentially criminalize for miscarriage due to like suits and investigations and all that. I think stuff like that, where states have laws that are, because it doesn't actually, but it's ambiguous enough that it can be used to do that. I think that's actually justification for a national ban. So yeah, I do think that that is justification for a national ban, because states are writing laws that are not thorough and leave way too much up for interpretation and are just a risk to mothers and even fetuses and children. So, one last thing, because this took a while to record, I was able to get something that I used in some parts of this that now I used the Internet Archive for this, but now I own a physical copy, and I just want to share that with you all because I'm very excited about it. But this book, which is used in this video, I used only one real study from this book, and that study is Pregnancy and Sexual Assault by Sandra K. McCorn, and that's starts on page 53 of this book, although it's a very difficult book to track down. The reason I'm sharing this is because it took me 2 months to find this book, and so I used the Internet Archive version. But now that filming's over, now that filming's over, I put it on my desk and it fell off. Now that filming's over, and I have it, I mean, I was able to use the Internet Archive, but I'm done with filming, except for this part, and now I have it, but I can share with you guys that I have it, and that it's cool that I have it. So yeah. Beyond that, just thank you again. If you want to go check out my other content on my other social medias, that being Instagram, X, TikTok, go for it, please, if you want to. Subscribe here, I guess, if you want to see more. I don't really know. What am I supposed to say? Like, comment, like, and subscribe? Do what you want. But yeah, thank you guys, and appreciate any and all support. I know it's a small account, but I enjoy it. I have fun doing this, and it's a really good intellectual exercise, stuff like this project. So thank you again for watching. And again, if you watch the full thing, like the full thing, not the series, but you watch the full video of all parts, I commend you. I really do. So yeah, thank you. Peace out, and have a great rest of your day.